Hello, my name is Maximiliano Firtman. I'm a mobile app and web developer. I've created this course to give you a quick first look into ChatGPT from the perspective of a web developer. In this course, we will learn the basic usage of OpenAI by creating a ChatGPT clone, and then how to integrate AI in your apps by taking ingredients from the user and generating recipes and images with AI dynamically and magically. It's an exciting time to be a web developer as we explore what AI can do for our web apps. You can use GPT for user input detection, such as hate speech, content that you don't want in your system. So you can pass user input to ChatGPT and ask for something in return. And that something can be categorize this content in these possible options. And then you can automatically reject that or not within your system. Content creation, you can create content on the fly. Sentiment analysis, for example, you have a review system and you can send the user is sending you a review of any of your services or products. You can send the text to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to give you just one answer. Is this positive or negative? And based on that, you can change the message that you reply to that user automatically. And if it's negative, for example, you can send an email to someone so that someone can reach the customer for blah, blah, blah. Make sense? So that's one idea. You can customize or make articles or content really personal. For example, maybe a newspaper. You have a newspaper, of course, a journalist, or maybe ChatGPT, someone wrote an article. It's published. But maybe I don't understand it. So I can ask the website with maybe a drop-down option for a simpler version, or a summary, or a version as if I'm 10 years old, or a different language, or whatever. And you can then customize that text and offer a service to your readers. So, and then can improve the time on your page, and then you have more ads and more views and maybe more money. Language translation is actually pretty good. It's better than Google Translate, translating to languages, even to languages that are not even common. Like, I don't know, Guarani, that's from Paraguay, that on Google Translate is not available or not good enough. Search, you can use it for a search box, and you can use ChatGPT to find the content within your database or within your articles for that, and we will explain how that's done later. To summarize content, GPT is pretty good on that. Q&A, it can create the Q&A for you. Test automation, now talking about code, it can actually write your test directly. Chatbots, that's like the first step when we are dealing with GPT. Let's create a chatbot. So then it can offer like customer service to your users. You should use ethics here and say to the user, hey, this is AI, have in mind that. And there's more. Email generation, content filtering, content tagging. This is pretty cool. So you have an article, you can tag the article. So then it's better to connect articles between them instead of doing this manually. You can automate social media, so you can post on Twitter, on Instagram automatically when something happens on your page, and make that content doesn't like look automatic, like it's always the same text. It's not a template. ChatGPT can generate different versions of that. Keyword research for SEO, spelling and grammar errors, so text correction. That's pretty cool on that. Content enhancement, maybe you have a lot of articles without images. Now you can create images around that. Content creation, email filtering, or even automatic transcriptions on videos. There are more ideas. This is just a list of ideas of what you can do as a web developer with AI. And by the way, this is not ideas of integrating your app, like make an AI app for something. You can make an app that uses AI as part of the business. So in this case, we were just talking about ideas for any website, but you can create an app that can translate JavaScript into something else, or any language into JavaScript. So in that case, you use AI as the core of your business. Our chat, it's kind of silly. In fact, let me retry so it wasn't just random. I will ask about myself. Who is Maximiliano Firtman? It knows me. So we wait for the full answer, and it's an Argentinian author, trainer, speaker, blah, 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 blah. Where does he live? I'm sorry, I don't have a context. Who are you referring to? So by default, and this is something that for me was a complete surprise when I realized how this works, every request on a chat must include the previous context. We need to do it manually. Server side, OpenAI is not keeping the history that in this LLM world we know as memory. So memory between conversations. So how does it work? We need to do it manually. How? On every new message, we need to add the previous messages as well. Does it make sense? I'm not sure if it makes sense, but that's how it works. In fact, that's how ChatGPT works. You're probably thinking, well, but sometimes I have very long answers, and then I have a long prompt and long answers. Every time I'm sending a new question, it's sending the previous. Yeah. And you're paying for the tokens again? Yes, you are. That's why at one point, you probably felt that with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is actually lost. So you say, but we were talking about something, you were like right, and now you're hallucinating. That's because it has a limit of tokens. At one point, it's removing the first messages in the chat. Makes sense? That's why GPT-4 has like a bigger window, a larger window of tokens, then it can hold more context. That's how it works today, at least. We don't have any other option. We actually need to do this. So that's why I already had an array of messages, so we can start collecting this. So we actually need to, for example, this role can be just the first message that we have here. Okay, and by the way, we cannot hear a computer answering questions as a pirate or always in Spanish. So, and you will use that, okay, as the system message has power for how it answers. So what we need to do always actually is to send the whole array that we have there, always, and here what we need is to add this to the array. So messages.push, and we are going to add that one. So we pass the whole array of messages. In fact, we don't need this. We can just do this in ECMAScript today. And then, this is important, when we receive the answer, we also need to save the whole message. Because if not, it won't have the context of what it answered before. So here, not just the content, but also the role. So let me show you that. So I'm going to also say messages push, and we are going to add json.choices sub0 dot message. That's the whole message, including the role assistant, who is Maximiliano Firtman. Okay, now we are back to the original answer. And where does he live? I mean, the answer it's not that it doesn't have context. It says, I don't know where he lives, but yeah, because the answer is that it knows me. We're talking about myself. We can say, no, something else. Do you know any books written by him? Anyway, you know that it's sending the context, okay? Because even here we can actually check the array of messages. We are accumulating the full chat, okay? And here we have some books, and I think it's true. High performance mobile web, that's fine. Parameter the mobile, yeah. Give the model an example of what you're expecting. So if you have your own format, you can actually say that. And you can explain to the model what to do when the input is invalid. This is really cool. Let me show you that. And we're going to use that later. But let's say that I will say, give me the list of countries for the cities in triple backtick. So I will say here a list of cities. Let's say Minneapolis, Buenos Aires, that's my hometown, London, Tokyo, something like that. And then we can say the list should be using a format like, and I'm going to invent something. I will use a different delimiter here. It's a different way to separate this. I will say like, let's say we can use Madrid, colon, Spain, semicolon. And I use Bangkok, colon, Thailand. So I'm giving the model a sample of what I'm expecting. The more concrete you are, the clearer you are when you're explaining, the better results you will get. I'm not sure, I haven't tried that one, so let's see that. What do you think? It worked. But now that I'm seeing the answer, that it looks pretty good. I can also add things like, okay, give me the emoji of the flag emoji. It really works. So add me the emoji. So I can add, even I don't want to explain that. I'm going to just add the emoji for Spain and for Thailand and see if that works. But if you pay attention, I'm receiving a last dot. Look at the emojis. It worked. It realized that I was expecting the emoji of the country. So it's actually pretty cool that you can actually get this. But I'm getting the last column, the last dot, sorry, that might be problematic for parsing this. So then I realized that testing the prompt. So then I can say, don't add any other characters or symbols to the list. And see if that works. By the way, I haven't tried this. This is a prompt I'm doing live with you. So, and if it doesn't work, then you can say remove the dot or something like that. I don't have a dot now. So it worked. So that's prompt engineering. That's why it's cool to work with a playground. So you can play and then you say, okay, I'm done with this. So I will copy and save that in my app. So that's the prompt I will use. But what if, remember this is asking for cities and countries. But let's say that the list of cities is dynamically generated, it's coming from a database, or the worst part, is written by the user. What if I say iPhone, Android, and MacBook? Because if it's user-generated, I don't know what will happen. Let's see. Well, sorry, I cannot provide it of countries, which it's okay, but I cannot parse that. So I should add here instructions to what to do. If the list of cities does contain valid entries, respond with the string false. And let's use something like this, with no other characters or symbols. Okay, makes sense? So if I hit send, false. So now we can parse that. We can parse the false with JavaScript or with other languages and know that something was wrong with the input.